This is a look at the SandboxRPG project for UClan. The idea behind this project is it's a template for an RPG game where you can open the project and replace all of these characters with your own character meshes and classes and animations. The animations and character models that I've used do belong to Epic Games. They are from the Paragon asset packs that are freely available at the Unreal Marketplace. When the player first starts, they'll be dumped into what I'm calling the stat corridor. So from here, you can safely, without any enemies, pick up all of these upgrades, make a choice, one of them disappears. The developer using this template can choose which upgrades show up, which upgrades are lost. And the player can check out these upgrades with the pause menu. There you go, 3, 2, 4, 3. They can spend them to increase their stats. They walk through this door, they get put in the overworld, where they can find enemies and start battle. The player can use basic attack animations. That's a melee attack. The fairy character here, the archer, will use a ranged attack. They can use magic, black magic. At the moment, it is all set available, but I have tested that if a character does not have the required MP in order to use it, then these options will be blacked out. They can use items. Potions can only be used on their allies, while grenades can be used on their enemies. The archer's ranged attack, there you go, just steps a little bit forward and throws a projectile. Sort of victory animations, UI that shows up, saying you leveled up. The items on the right here, those items are percentage chance of getting. There's a limited number of them, and the enemy AI will randomly pick which one you get. When the yellow bar is filled, the player's turn can begin and their menu will show up. I'm gonna quickly end this battle here. As you can see, the enemies will attack as well, and you'll take damage. But if you take a look on the right hand side here, the items from victory are different. We got some HP spheres. Last battle, we didn't get any spheres upgrades this battle. It was all battle items which can be used to heal or repair, improve the player units, the player character unit characters performance in battle. Just to show you the project on the back end, everything is reliant on the combat component blueprint here, which works out battle and is attached to the unit base parent class. So these two work together to sort out the battle system along with the game mode. If you were to use this template and add your own characters, you can either create a child of the unit base, but I would recommend that you create a child of the party unit base for any of the playable characters that you intend to have, while creating a child of the enemy unit base for any of the enemy characters that you wanted to add, as these two have different values, different variables attached to them, and they have different markers for the combat component to look for and search, which a unit base doesn't have those because the unit base is for everybody, while party unit base is just for player characters and enemy unit base is just for the AI to use. On that, you can go into the character blueprint that you create the child, and you can, from there, on the right, you can choose the skeletal mesh and the animations that they will be using, as well as here, the character animes. That is where you would set the different animations for that will be activated during battle. Here we are. There you go, anim stunned. So when the paladin character is stunned, he'll play this animation. Same for the other ones, such as death and victory. There you are. With your own animations, you import them into Unreal, create your own animation montage, and then just select the new animations you wish to use there. These variables search for any of the available animation montages in the project files. But with that being on the class defaults for the character blueprint, you then click on the combat component and you can choose which attack animation they have, which animation they have for magic, which animation they have when they use an item. You can also choose the base attack, which is the equivalent of them doing an unarmed punch, and then the weapon attack, and the weapon attack is the how much damage the weapon is going to add to this character's base attack. So this paladin here will do 135, and then based on how much strength this paladin has, there you go, the integer 2, depends on how much that 135 base attack becomes. The strength will be increased with their level unless you manually set it, or the player manually sets it via the menus. And just to add a little bit of differentiation between all of the characters, you can use the unit stat modifier, which is unavailable to the player. That will decide how much they have. So accuracy 1 is 100% accurate. If you lower this to something like 25, then they'll hit 1 every 4 attacks. The strength 1.2, so if the base attack for the paladin is 135 damage, then they will do extra attack versus the thief character, who will do just 135 because their strength modifier is 1, and the archer character, their strength modifier is less than 1, so they won't do the full 135 attack damage, whereas the paladin here will do more than they're supposed to because their class benefit gives them that extra 20%, so they'll do 120% of these two variables combined. If I haven't managed to add it yet, but if you wanted to add the ability for the player to change different weapons, you would just cast to the character that they've just equipped this item to, and you would change this variable here, the weapon attack. And from there, they'll be able to do different damage in the battle phase. When adding your own character, you just change any of these multipliers. Wisdom, they'll do more magic attack. Haste, they'll get a turn faster. Stamina, they'll resist more damage. Strength, they'll deal more damage. MP and HP, they'll have more health, or they'll have more magic points, more mana to use. Accuracy, how often will they land their hits. You just change that based on how you want your new character, what kind of class archetype they fit in. All of these blueprints can be, the high resolution screenshots can be found on my blog, where I'll fully explain what each node does and why I've ordered them in this structure. As you can see here on the unit base master top level parent class, when any unit, friend or foe, receives damage, it will calculate the actual damage with the resistance taken away, and then it will create the widget that you see on screen, the red and green number. The unit base as well, just checking if the character that it's currently selected is stunned or not, and whether or not they should end the stun. Most of the programming is done on the combat component. The combat component will, on begin play, it will set the battle position, so where each unit is standing. It will set what the stats are, which the stats by default, especially for the enemies, are attached to a spreadsheet, a data table with imported data from a spreadsheet. I'll show you the data table in Unreal. Content blueprints, stat info, data table. Here you are. So if you drop a goblin into the overworld and you make it a level 13 goblin, they will have 1,856 HP, 50 MP. Their strength, stamina, accuracy, and wisdom and haste will all be 14. For the player, they will not be this because the player has to manually decide which of these categories they want to increase when they level up, when they've collected all of the spheres, the upgrade items. But all of those values are in this spreadsheet here as well. Here's what Unreal Engine sees, and here is some mathematical calculations I've done to work out balancing before I put it in the engine. But Unreal will just see these values, and if you change this, then you can just re-import the spreadsheet using the data table re-import, and it will update the battle damage calculation. Here, set stats is just collecting that information from the data table spreadsheet. Quick check on the attack command. So when the player hits that, it'll check whether or not they're a ranged attack or a melee attack. The difference is the ranged attack will throw a projectile, be it an arrow or a spear or a bomb, as you saw with the flying fairy character. The archer, they threw a bomb at the enemy. Melee attack, they'll walk right up to him. The ranged attack will only, this function here, get ranged position. This will determine how far ahead a ranged character walks from their starting position. So 250 units. They'll just walk that far ahead, and then they'll throw their projectile. And then if we go back to the event graph, once they're done moving to that position, they will play an animation, which is them throwing the object, or in the case of melee, it's them doing their swinging attack, and then they'll move back to their original position. So here you are. Move back to battle position, and for ranged, there it is. It's on the end ranged attack, because for the ranged attack, we have to actually spawn that projectile. There's a small extra step there, and that's why we do a quick Boolean check. On the normal ranged attack, we do the same Boolean check for magic, here it is. And we do the same Boolean check for items, just to determine for the both of them whether or not you're selecting an enemy character or a player character. And from there, all of the attack commands, they have the unit on screen move forward a little bit or move towards the desired position, be it the enemy or just a couple steps forward. They'll play their animations, and then they'll move back, and then they'll cast to end turn. If you were to add new spells, then you would go over to either the white magic base or the black magic base. Where is it? There it is, black magic base. And then you right click, create a child, and program your own spell with your own animations and particle effects, as well as your own programming code as to how much damage they'll inflict. Just like how when you add a character, you will choose whether or not it's an enemy or a party player character. And then you will create a child of that. Battle items are items which will show up in the menu. They're just the children of item base. And then the world items, these world spheres, these are items which you can place in the overworld and the player can interact with. At the moment, it's just what I call the upgrade items. So it's just what the player needs in order to increase their stats. But you can add, you can right click, create child of item, and then make any item you wish. Same goes for magic. There it is. Same goes for magic. You just right click, create child, add one as you wish. The only other thing to mention is the battle mode with the player being gone from the player losing control over walking around and controlling each unit. It's all menu based, so the combat component and all of these widgets will call other events, and they will call event dispatchers, and they will bind the events that they have to event dispatchers, so that all of these blueprints are communicating with each other. By right click, show reference viewer. There you are. It'll receive the event dispatcher from the combat component, and it'll talk to all of these different blueprints to find out all the information it needs. Party info will do what the target is. If it's a goblin, this is the goblin. They're weak to fire damage, for example, or this is a potion. It'll increase your HP by a small amount or by a medium amount. All of these widgets are in one spot, more or less, but they are hidden at the start of play, and then they have animations, which will show... There you are. Which will show and hide all the different children widgets as necessary. These animations which show them, there you go, hide available targets and show available targets, are also on events. So there you go, bind to event, return selected. It will hide whatever widget it was, which will just be the playing the animation which reveals it in reverse to hide it. But whenever you do click a ability such as the magic or an item or an attack, it will populate the target window blueprint with individual target names and item names. If it's an ability, it will get the class and it will find out whether or not it should use enemy units. If it's an item, it will check whether or not it should use enemy units from the enum, whether or not it's going to support the party characters, or if it's going to debuff the enemy characters, then it will use the enemy units. If it will support them, it won't. It'll show you your party units. If it will hurt the enemy, then it will only show enemy units to be targeted. There you go, that's here. In the level, any of the units with battle positions will be added to one of these two arrays. This is why we, when adding a new character, would go to create a child of the party unit base or the enemy unit base instead of just creating a new character from unit base, because there is different logic for each one, and creating a subchild of the enemy will inherit all of the things that are only relevant to the enemy, and they will not inherit anything related to the party characters. But that's the logic there. It'll cast to the game mode, find who is alive, and then it will set true or false and only show those in the new target slot widget. And then it will dispatch the event and bind it to a chosen target, so that once a target has been chosen, it knows what it has to play the attack or the magic animation for dealing damage. You can find all of these blueprints and greater detail on how this programming works on my blog on Blogger. I'll leave a link in the description.